and we're going to be live on YouTube now. We are live on YouTube, so welcome aboard and thank you for joining us. Just to welcome personally for those who have shared with us messages already. Trevor Gerson, good morning, nice to have you here. Anne Hack, Helton Sawitsky, Mark Machenheimer, Larry Cohen, Dennis Solomons, thank you. Ruth Kaplan, good morning, Boker Tov. So we encourage all those who are logging on now to share with us. Cheryl and Diamond, thank you. If you're just logging on, please do share that you're here, you're with us, that you're connecting. We always like to know who's with us, at what point in time. Thank you very much, Boker Tov. If you're just joining now, Bernice Krause, good morning. If you're just joining now, please let us know and share your greetings. Thank you for being here. Any international participants? Please let us know. Shirley Feldman, good morning. Lionel Rubin, good morning. If you any international participants here with us, Moira Dworkin on YouTube, good morning. Boker Tov. Israel, Australia, let us know if you're with us. I see more people here. Rabbi Zilberhaft, Shkoyach, thank you. Manfred Kalmek, Norman Stein, another great day in Africa. Please God. Marcus Stein, good morning. Daniel Lazarus, we've got some international participation here. Daniel Lazarus is here from Perth, Australia. Good to have you here. Great. Anyone from Israel logging on? Let us know. Hilly Lipworth, good morning. Thank you for joining. Morning, Jenny Lichtenstein, thank you. Okay, we're going to give it another minute just to allow for people to log on. Oh, I see more people on YouTube. Great. Vega, Raylene, Ian, Clemenson, Shelley Smith, Boker Tov, one and all. Thank you. Great. I love this interaction, guys. Keep it going. It's nice to meet you, see you, connect with you. Fantastic. Fantastic. Great to see you all. Okay, just give me a second. I'm going to start. Boker Tov, Jonathan Alon. Jonathan Hirsch from Israel. Good. Welcome. So we got Australia here. We got Israel here. We got Joburg. Any Cape Townians online this morning? Let us know if you're from Cape Town. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, we're going to continue the conversation that we started yesterday, which was a conversation that discussed 3 different statements. Just give me a second here. Okay, just cleaned up the screen a little bit. If that's a little bit cleaner. Okay, good. 3 different statements that we discussed yesterday. Hillel, Shammai, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And they were debating as to what was created first. Was heaven created first? Was earth created first? Heaven or earth, what was created first? And we said that Beit Shammai said heaven was created first and then earth. But Hillel said the earth was created first and then heavens. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, I don't get what you're arguing about, because really the two go hand in hand. And earth needs heaven and heaven needs earth. And what exactly is the argument? And therefore both are necessary. Morning, Helen Miller and Shalom Shriga. Thank you for joining. So that's the quote from the Medrash that we discussed. And we asked the question, what is this debate and why is this so relevant to us? And who really cares if heaven was created first or earth was created first or vice versa? And we need to be able to apply this and connect to this on a personal level. So yesterday, we gave the first insight that heaven represents the greatness of God. Morning, Ryan. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here. Heaven represents the greatness of God. Earth represents the lowness, the humility of man. And that's the discussion. What comes first? Man acknowledging how low he or she is, or God acknowledging, or us acknowledging how great God is. That was a discussion we had yesterday. I'm not going to go back into that discussion. If you want to follow up, you're more than welcome to search for yesterday's class, either on YouTube or Facebook. It will be there, and you can listen in to what the first interpretation was. We're going to move on to the next interpretation. Good morning, David Ginsburg. And the other planets. Good question. I would say the other planets go under physical, under Earth. Robert Levy, that was your question. So I would say other planets fit into the category of Eretz, of Earth. Okay, so today's conversation is going to be based on another discussion. I'm going to connect it to Hillel and Shammai. I'm going to connect it to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And it's another famous debate as to what is the right order. The verse says, and we say this in davening on Shabbat morning, Sur meira v'asei tov, which means stay away from bad and do good. Stay away from bad and do good. And it seems to indicate that that's the right order. First, refraining from that which is prohibited, and then embracing new traditions. There are other verses that indicate the opposite. There are other verses that indicate that first comes Asay Tov, doing good, and then comes Sumera, right? Staying away from bad. So there are verses to this and there are verses to that, and this is a big debate. What is the right approach? What's the right approach to Kiruv? What's the right approach to Balei Tshuva? What's the right approach to fixing up and to mending our ways and to coming close to God and to returning to Yiddishkeit and to Judaism? What is the right approach? Let me share with you how deep this debate is. Okay, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, we know, came out with a film campaign. Right, the goal was to encourage men of all circles and all religious levels to put on tefillin. And so what the Rebbe instituted was that rabbinic students and rabbis and others would take their pair of tefillin and they would go out to the shops and to the office buildings and to the streets with their tefillin. And they would encourage men to put on tefillin because the Rebbe taught them how important the mitzvah of tefillin is and how we have the responsibility of encouraging as many men as possible to fulfill the mitzvah of tefillin. This was instituted in the late 1960s, going to the 1970s, and then continued through the Rebbe's life and even afterwards. The Rebbe instituted or pushed for this during the Six-Day War. During 1967, the Rebbe actually instituted this, which I just want to mention, actually, on that note, something very, very interesting. Just give me a second here. I'm gonna pull it up because it's fascinating, and I want to share it with you. Good morning, Arlene Yudolovitz. Thank you for joining us. So in 1967, the Rebbe instituted this custom of going out into the streets, into the shop, interesting conversation or interesting communication. Just bear with me for a moment while I pull it up on the screen for myself, and I want to share it with you. From religious communities to the Rebbe's suggestion was extreme. They had questions, you're going out with tefillin into a big world. And in that big world, there are people coming from all sorts of inappropriate backgrounds. And how could you offer them to put on tefillin if they are impure, or if they are inappropriately dressed, or if they're behaving inappropriately? It doesn't work. You can't just pull out tefillin and put on tefillin on whoever you want to put on tefillin, right? In other words, for example, you can't take someone who was in the bar the entire night, partying away in Tel Aviv, and in the morning they're walking out and there's a rabbi who stops them and puts on tefillin. So in other words, the question was, what's got to come first? The Rebbe said, what comes first is asay toiv. Do help them immensely. One extra mitzvah is going to help them. So do good. And the response was, no, you can't do good if you can't do good if you haven't amended that which is wrong. And sumera is amending that which is wrong. So first amend, first correct that which is wrong, and then you can look at doing something more positive. That was a big debate that took place in those times, and that debate continued long after. It's not so simple. Today, the Kirov movements have changed things. Kirov is accepted across the board. I found what I wanted to share with you. This was a Instagram and Twitter post that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just put on his profile yesterday. Okay, and he wrote a letter. Let me see what date. 32 years ago, exactly 32 years ago, Benjamin Netanyahu wrote this letter to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe responded to him. Okay, so I want to share that letter with you. The letter's written of Iyar. Okay, which we're not just there yet, but 1988. Okay, listen to this. Kvod Harav, the Honorable Rabbi, I am about to return. I'm paraphrasing his letter. I'm about to return to Israel from America. I wanted to depart and say goodbye with this letter, and to thank you for the encouragement that the Rav gave me during my years in serving in the United Nations. As we know that Netanyahu was the representative of Israel in the United Nations. I want to thank you. And he says, the meetings with you help me all the time as a source of spiritual inspiration and continuous support for Israel. Stood in front of me and stood in front of my eyes many, many times, especially during the difficult times and my difficult experiences. I thank you, and I was happy for every opportunity that gave me to help our good friends. And he lists a few names regarding their mivtzaim, their projects of going around to the souls, happy to help the Chabadnikim, the Israel, the Chabad Shuk for the Rav, many more years of spiritual work with feelings of yedidut, of friendship and admiration, and he signs Binyamin Netanyahu. Fascinating letter. Now listen to this. So the Rebbe writes back to him on Instagram yesterday. He says 32 years since that day. And the Rebbe writes back to Mar Binyamin Netanyahu, United Shagrir Ba'um. He is the United Nations representative. And he says, thank you for your letter. And he writes that in the words of our rabbis, Va'avarcha mevarechecha, whoever blesses you shall be blessed. So I bless you as well with physical and spiritual blessings. And please God, your aliyah to Israel should be an aliyah in all matters, not just in geographical space, but in all matters. And you should continue using your kishronot, your skills, and possibilities, all in the right regard of Israel, etc. And he wishes him Kabbalat Torah b'simcha. It should be a good Yom Tov for Shavuot, etc. That's an unbelievable conversation. Beautiful correspondence between Netanyahu and the Rebbe. But what I picked up on is the fact that Netanyahu says, I was happy to support and help the rabbis to get to the front lines, to the army, to the soldiers, that's what they were doing. That's what the Rebbe Shluchim were doing. And there was pushback because that's not how you start Judaism. You don't start Judaism with Asay Tov, with doing good. You've got to first refrain. You've got to cleanse them. You've got to purify them. They've got to do tshuva. They've got to correct their ways. They can't just come in and do tefillin randomly when they choose to. That was the approach. Today, things have changed. Today, the Kiruv movements would love for anybody to put on tefillin with them, or learn a good vart, a dvar Torah with them, or go to yeshiva, or whatever the case may be. Anybody would do anything. Today, there's no rules when it comes to Kiruv. We don't say first do tshuva, or first correct your ways, sumera, and then asay tov. It doesn't work that way today, right? So, but nonetheless, the debate is still there. The debate is still there. And this was the debate of Hillel and Shammai. What is the right approach? Do I have to first correct my wrongdoing and then worry about doing good? Or can I do good and we'll worry about correcting the past or filling in the gaps, later on? I'd love to hear your views on this. If any of you, we have 35 students here between Facebook and YouTube. So I welcome all those who are logging on. Thank you for joining us. If you are online with us, please share with us. So I'd like to know your views on the balance between doing good and refraining from bad. And if you see a preference, should I say, if you see a preference to one of those two, what would you suggest? Don't be embarrassed. You're more than welcome to share, because that was a debate of Hillel and Shammai. So if Hillel and Shammai can debate it, then all of us can debate it too. So just let me know what you think. Just while we wait, and I'd love to have your participation, as I said, there's a quote. Thank you, Ian. Ian has shared with us on YouTube. If anybody else would like to share, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you, Ian, for your participation. So Ian writes, positive will help to counter negative. Very good. I assume what that means is it will level it out or overcome it. So the truth is that the Talmud in Kiddushin suggests exactly that. The Talmud in Kiddushin says, listen to the wording, I've created the Yetzer Hara, says God, and I created its antibody. Talking about antibodies now. I created the Yetzer Hara, and I created the antibody. And what is the antibody of the Yetzer Hara, says the Talmud in Kiddushin? Torah. That through studying Torah, you'll upgrade, you'll counter, as you write correctly, Ian. Through studying Torah, you'll counter the Yetzer Hara. Talmud says it, that the antibody for Yetzer Hara is Torah. So the more you study Torah, the more you get rid of the Yetzer Hara. Thank you, Helen, Brian Feinstein. Thank you on Facebook. Doing good first, right? That seems to be the approach today. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable to see the change in mindset in the 1970s, 1980s, when the Jewish community was much different to the way it is today in the modern world. Many people could not accept that approach, doing good first. Let me just say, today it's common language, as Ian and Brian have shared with us today. But it's common language. Do good and you'll overcome the bad. It's a fine. Every extra mitzvah is good. Boy, oh boy, communities then didn't accept that. No way. First, mend your bad ways. Do tshuva. Repent. Have remorse. And then maybe you can look at doing the next step. I see here so I see your comment, Brian. Let me just reword that. Okay. And let me just show you how complicated this topic is, because it's not so simple. Not so simple. Imagine if I just want to confuse things a little bit or mix it up. Thanks, Jonathan, for your comment. I'll get to it in a moment. Imagine if you had a bank robber. Everyone knew he's a bank robber. Or take, for example, a Bernie Madoff, who robs the entire community of their investment money. Right? And then the next day he comes to shul for Shachris, to put on tefillin and daven Shachris with a minyan. Right? What would be your approach then? What would be our approach then? He got the gunner of town, robbing every person left, right, and center. And now he's coming to shul to put on tefillin. Or he's giving tzedakah with that money. I'm not so sure then we would say the positive will overcome the negative. It's okay, let him come to shul. It's okay, the more he puts on tefillin, the more he davens in the minyan, he'll overcome his temptation of stealing and robbing the community. I'm not so sure we would say that. I see here Jonathan's point. Shouldn't one first find the balance and relinquish any controversial or egregious habits first and receive education, or what makes a good Jew? Some I know have even argued that certain good deeds can counteract some sins. Right, you're absolutely right, Jonathan. All the way from Israel, thank you. Trevor Gerson, those days there were no such outreach. It's true. So here's an example. Here's an extreme example. You got a guy who's robbing the banks, but davening Shachris and a minyan the next day. Do we say, it's fine, let him be part of the minyan? And hopefully the more he davens with the minyan, the more he'll overcome his temptation. That's one option. Or no, do we say, first correct your ways. Go do tshuva. Go stop robbing. And when you stop robbing, then you can come daven with us. Otherwise, who wants you here? I'm not saying all these cases are the same. I'm just creating the conversation and the dilemma. Brian Owen, thank you, Brian. He shared with me the story of the child who goes to the Friday night ball game, but he makes Kiddush first. Or many of you know people that may have gone to work on Shabbos but come to shul. Friday night, Shabbos afternoon, whatever the case may be. So these are big moral questions. Where does the change start? Does the change start with positive? Does the change start with the negative? Does the change start with asay tov? Does the change start with So here's an emotional point. Here's an emotional point by Linda Drew. I'm not going to read it out loud. It's on Facebook. Okay, I'll share. We were taken by so and so, and later a Torah was donated to the community. We shouldn't judge. Okay, Trevor? Good point. So these are moral dilemmas, and Hillel and Shammai were debating this from day one. What is the approach to tshuva? Now, so this is what Hillel and Shammai were debating. Shammai said, Shamayim comes first. Shammai said, heaven comes first. Religious activity comes first. Religious observance comes first. Do an extra mitzvah. Put on tefillin. Come to the minyan. I don't care where you've been all night or what you're up to. Just do an extra mitzvah. That's the main thing. So first comes Shamayim, and then comes Eretz. Then comes earth. First, do an extra mitzvah. The more you learn, the more you do, the more you're part of it, the more you'll counteract, as you've all written, the negative behavior. So that's Shammai's opinion. And Hillel says, no, Eretz must come first. Earth must come first before the heavens. First comes earth. First, you got to deal with the matters of the mundane, matters of the physical world. You got to repent. You got to correct your wrongdoing. You can't expect to move on without addressing your issues. You got to address your issues first. That's Eretz. Then you can get to the Shamayim, to the heavens. You see the debate. Now, Shimon Bar Yochai, who we quoted yesterday, Shimon Bar Yochai comes along and he says, I'm not sure what you guys are arguing about. Which one to start first? In my mind, you need both equally, side by side. That's the message. You can't have one without the other. You can't have Shamayim first and not Oretz. Or Oretz first, the land first, and not Shamayim. It doesn't work that way. Shamayim va'oretz, heavens and earth, says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, was created hand in hand, side by side. Why? Because you need both in order to do a good job of coming close to Hashem. You need both in order to grow. Why? You can't uproot bad if you haven't focused on good. In order to uproot bad, you need to know what next needs to be done. In order to uproot bad, you need to know what to do instead. And similarly, you can't do good without getting rid of the bad. You can't really, you can't focus on growing if you haven't got rid of the bad. So it says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, what are you arguing about, Shammai and Hillel? I'm telling you, Shamayim va'aretz, the heavens and the earth, are side by side with each other. And while that Ganav comes to shul the next morning, and he goes to shul and he puts on tefillin, which is good. At the same time, he has to say, Slach lanu. He's got to hit his heart, and he needs to say, Slach lanu, forgive us Hashem, forgive me for what I did yesterday for robbing the bank. I have remorse, I have regret. And now I'm sitting in shul putting on tefillin. You can't sit in shul, put on tefillin, and not regret the wrong you've done. You got to be able to do it together. You think when the Rebbe sent out his students to put on tefillin with the soldiers, or on the Midrash of Ben Yehuda to put on tefillin, you think he didn't have in mind that the individual should go through teshuvah and remorse for what he had done the night before, the day before? For sure, it's part of it. Absolutely, it's part of it. But together with that needs to come asay tov, good deeds, and good mitzvot. And it's going to be specifically the combination of both. Sur meira v'asay tov, stay away from bad and do good. They work hand in hand together and enable us to move forward. If I could just mention that I think for most of us, it's easier just to do good. Meaning, tell me what to do and I'll do it. But things that I've done wrong, I don't really have the mindset to correct or to improve. So I'm happy to do more good, but to stay away from prohibitions is harder in a way. So I want to help you and do chesed. I want to learn more. I want to daven more. That's all beautiful. It's all part of asay tov. It's all part of doing good. But the moment you tell me sumerat, stop doing whatever it is to do. Take, for example, a smoker. So you say to a smoker that it's not healthy to smoke, right? So why don't you exercise? And if you exercise, you'll get stronger. So what's a smoker going to do? He'll exercise. If he enjoys you or enjoys spending time with you or you left an impression on him or her, he'll go exercise. But will he quit smoking? Not sure about that. So to do good, if you're motivated, you always want to do good. But to correct the past or wrongdoing, that's like painful. It's so difficult to go back and correct the wrongdoing. And that's where we fall short. So it needs to be a balance of both. According to Shema Bar Yochai, you need to have both. Take, for example, Shabbos observance. Right? We all love the positive mitzvahs of Shabbos. We all love the Kiddush and the Shul experience. We wish we can go back to Shul ASAP straight away. We love the Kiddush. We love the Shul. We love sitting around the table in the family, eating and dining for Shabbos. Asay tov is good. But what about sumeira? What about staying away from bad? What about becoming more shomrei, meaning practicing the prohibitions of Shabbos? That's maybe more challenging for people. So to do good, I'll do lots of good. But to start looking back at what I'm doing wrong, that's not so comfortable for me. It's not so comfortable for me. So here Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai tells us, with the balance of Shemayim and Aretz, heavens and earth, that really it needs to be a balance of both. We need to have Shemayim va'aretz. We need to have the heavens and the earth, the mundane and the spiritual, hand in hand with each other in order to really grow. And this obviously is an appropriate message for the time of the year. It's Sfirat Omer. We're getting ready for Shavuot in 2 weeks' time, please God, just over 2 weeks. So it's a good time to look at ourselves and to assess ourselves and see where we're holding. And when we need to grow and improve, and when we need to refrain from whatever prohibition it is. We've got a great crowd here, over 35 students between the YouTube platform and Facebook platform. So thank you all for being with us today. If there's any thoughts or comments on this topic, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you already to those who have shared this morning. If there's anyone else here that has a question or a comment, I'd love to hear from you on that question or comment and be able to engage with you as usual across the public platform. The terminology, by the way, just as we conclude, the terminology for Shabbos observance that we use is Zachor and Shamor. That's a combination. Zachor are the positive mitzvahs, and Shamor are the negative prohibitions of Shabbos. And what do we say? Zachor v'Shamor b'dibur echad. That God said Zachor and Shamor in the same breath. Because in the same breath, he alluded to positive mitzvahs and the positive commandments and doing good. And in the same breath, he spoke about Sumera, Shamor, guarding yourself from negative prohibitions. And the two go hand in hand. It's been wonderful sharing with you this morning. Thank you very, very much for joining us. If there's any questions, you're more than welcome to message me either now on the chat or following the class privately as well. I look forward every day to seeing you all here. So please do come back tomorrow morning. Same place, same time. Thank you, Arlene. And I wish you all a wonderful day. Keep safe, keep sane. And may we always be able to inform one another of only good news. God bless, and over and out.